Then on Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on a big matchup coming up here in the SEC in Week 7 of this 2021 college football season, and it'll be over the Auburn Tigers and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Crucial matchup for each of these teams heading into Week 7. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Auburn last week lost to Georgia. 10-31 was the final score there. Just a tough loss for Auburn, and obviously Georgia was the number 2 team in the nation last week. They are now the number 1 team in the nation. So Georgia, if you ask me right now, they are the best team in the nation by a large margin. I mean, that's a very talented Georgia football team. They're only allowing, I think, 6 points per game so far this season. I mean, that defense is for real. So obviously a tough loss. And we also saw Arkansas got shut out by Georgia a couple of weeks ago, 37-0. So both of these teams have been dominated by Georgia so far this season. But overall, Auburn here, they are 4-2. They lost to Penn State earlier in the season. But overall, this is still a very talented Auburn team that I think is worthy of being a top 25 team. In fact, I think I ranked them 23rd in my rankings for Week 7. So I still think this is a very talented team. And even for Arkansas, this is a team who lost to Ole Miss 51-52. Who would have thought we would have seen over 100 points in that game? But we did. And I mean, it was a shootout. That is just a tough loss, really. I mean, after a shootout in a gutsy game like that, I mean, that was a tough loss for Arkansas. But for both of these teams, I mean, a New Year's Six bowl game is still in the picture. So there's obviously still a lot to play for each of these teams. And that's what makes it a crucial game here coming up here in Week 7. But yeah, both teams are 4-2. Arkansas is the one team ranked here at number 17. Game will be on October 16th, Saturday, Fayetteville, Arkansas. So the Razorbacks are the home team in this matchup. And it'll be at 11 a.m. Central Time. So obviously the Razorbacks have played very well at home so far this season. I believe that's when they knocked off Texas a few weeks ago, was at home. So, and obviously, I mean, Arkansas, this team did beat Texas A&M a few weeks ago as well. That wasn't a home game. It was in, I believe, Dallas. But I mean, still, this Arkansas team plays very well at home. We've seen a big home field advantage for this team so far this season. So overall, that's going to help them a ton in this matchup. They are the favorites. Arkansas is favored according to the spread by 3.5. Your over-under is 53. And your FPI is going with Arkansas as well, 60%. So not too surprising seeing Arkansas as the favorite here, but it is by a low margin for sure. It's expected to be a close game. Series history, Auburn leads at 18-11. So the Tigers do have the advantage there. Win streak is Auburn by 5. So Auburn has won 5 straight games in this matchup. That's worth considering. I mean, if a team has had a long success in a series, I mean, it'll be easier to pick that team. But yeah, Auburn, they've had more success in this series without a doubt with 5 straight wins. Last time Arkansas won this game was in 2015. Here's your stat comparison. Auburn's got 35 points per game, 19 points allowed, 245 pass yards a game, 206 rush yards. So a pretty balanced offense. And then for yards allowed, 216 passing, 104 rushing. As for Arkansas, 32 points per game, 24 points allowed, 214 pass yards a game, 244 rush yards a game. So we see a heavy rushing offense here with Arkansas so far this season. And then for yards allowed, 156 passing, 181 for rushing. So passing defense, I mean, it's looked good so far, but obviously a lot of teams have decided to rush the ball instead of passing it much on Arkansas so far this season. So you do got to take that into consideration as well. Recent matchups for both these teams, Auburn, they lost to Georgia, of course, 10-34, but they beat LSU there 24-19. That was a big win. I mean, LSU, that's a tough place to play. I believe that was a night game as well. So that was a quality win there. And I understand LSU is not very good this year, but that was a good win there for Auburn. They also beat Georgia State 34-24, lost to Penn State 20-28, and they absolutely blew out Alabama State. So obviously this Auburn team has got some good wins under their belt. As for Arkansas, they lost to Ole Miss and Georgia, and this team has had a brutal schedule so far. I mean, if you look at it, you had to play Texas, you had Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, which obviously Arkansas beating Texas and Texas A&M, that's what really leaped them up into the rankings. But I mean, obviously after 2 tough losses against Ole Miss and Georgia, I mean, yeah, it's very unfortunate for Arkansas because this team has just got a brutal schedule in the SEC this season. And so, I mean, they've done pretty well considering how tough of a schedule that they do have. Yeah, obviously, with that Texas A&M win, I mean, Texas A&M, they did just knock off Alabama. So if you consider it, that makes it look like even more of a good win there. Some key points for this one: both teams are 4-2. Obviously, Auburn has had losses to two very talented teams. Penn State, I still believe, is one of the best teams in the nation. They probably would have beaten Iowa if Sean Clifford would have stayed in the game. So, yeah, Penn State, that's a quality football team as well. But yeah, Auburn still got potential to get to a good bowl game. I think even for both teams here, I could see both teams definitely making a run towards the New Year's Six bowl game. It's not without, or it's still in the picture for both these teams without a doubt. I mean, we're still just halfway through this season, but I mean, this is a big game though, because the loser of this game is probably going to have a pretty tough time getting to a New Year's Six bowl game, and the picture for that will be significantly more closed in comparison to before this game, because I mean, with 3 losses through 7 games, I mean, it's going to be tough to win your last 5. Because I mean, even if you go 9-3, it's tough to make it into a New Year's Six bowl game. I mean, it's possible, but it's unlikely. So you got to take that into consideration. But as for Arkansas here, they're coming off of a very tough past couple of weeks against Georgia and Ole Miss. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond in this game, with it being at home and obviously against another talented opponent. But yeah, Arkansas still a very talented team with upside. They've got the home field advantage as well. You got to take that into consideration. But for Auburn here, turnover margin will win the game, I think, for both these teams, which I think both teams are pretty equally skilled, and it should come down to the wire without a doubt. So turnovers are going to be huge. Whichever team wins the turnover margin is most likely going to win this game. So definitely keep that in mind. But with that, let's get to the prediction for this game: Auburn and Arkansas, 28-24. I'm going Razorbacks here. I think it's going to be very close, but Arkansas being at home, and I also think coming off of 2 pretty tough weeks, I think this team responds well. I mean, I think Arkansas being back at home after 2 very tough road games, I think that'll be good for Arkansas, and I think this team will get a nice quality win here in Week 7. But for Auburn, I mean, if Auburn beats Arkansas here, Razorbacks, that's not a very good position for them with 3 straight losses. So, I mean, it's, once again, as I said before, it is a crucial game for both these sides here. I mean, for Auburn especially, I mean, you can't forget about them. This is a football team that I mean, going into the season, I mean, with the talent that I saw on this team, I mean, I could still easily see 8 to 9 wins out of Auburn. So this is still a football team that has a chance to have a pretty good season overall. But yeah, probability Arkansas 55%. So it's going to be close. I could definitely see either team winning this game. So do keep that in mind. But your over-under is 53. I'm taking the under just slightly in this matchup with 52 total points as of right now. But I do think the under is pretty likely to happen. I would be surprised if we saw a big shootout here. I mean, it's definitely possible. We saw what happened last week between Arkansas and Ole Miss, but I don't really see that in this game. I think we see more of a moderate scoring game, nothing too low scoring or nothing on the scale of a shootout. So anyway, that being said, that wraps it up for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys all watching. As always, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll catch you on the next one.